Welcome back. It's been a while. I haven't made one of these in like 8 months. I wanted to give an update on what's been going on, my thoughts on an anxiety topic. For those of you who don't know, last year I inherited an anxiety group and sort of turned it into my own. There was a 24-hour chat, and some people still talk in there. We would meet once a week and talk about what's going on with us, and sometimes people would come on this and share their stories. A lot of the people that were in there have agoraphobia. It's basically entirely surrounded with anxiety, but for those of you who don't know what agoraphobia is, it's the fear of fear. So if you have a panic attack at a store, you'll start avoiding going to the store. You'll associate the fear, the hard to breathe, heart pounding, panic with where you were. So this will continue to happen. It'll happen in a car, it'll happen at the park, and you'll have this sense of, that you don't have control of your own body, right? Like all these crazy things are happening to you, making you feel like, you're gonna die or you need to go to the hospital. In my case, I thought I was gonna die for like 3 years, but I was too afraid to go to the hospital because I was convinced they were gonna tell me, you got like 3 days to live. So, and I didn't want to hear that. And the idea of, coming face to face with news like that, my heart just couldn't take it. So I avoided it. And eventually I learned that under certain circumstances, with certain people around me, I would not feel these feelings that, it's hard to breathe and just off. Like sometimes you feel dizzy or you get jerked to the left or just that you're not in control and that your body is attacking you. And it's not fun to not feel safe in your own skin. So I actually didn't know how popular this was, how many people had it. And it was nice to be able to talk to people who feel or felt the same as me. Again, I haven't done one of these in a while. I'm already noticing myself starting to shift. Your body just sometimes never feels right. Like, I don't know. So if I seem weird, whatever. Anyway, so it's been like 8 months since I've done one of these things, and the people who do know me, you might hear a lot of similar things that I used to say again, but basically I have not posted in this group for a long time. I used to pay a lot of attention to it, and I treated it like my child. I was on it every day, talking to everyone that I could or needed me, and trying to just keep it alive and be there for people. I spent a lot of time and attention on this, and a lot of these meetings or whatever, I wasn't allowed to call it group therapy or whatever because I'm not a therapist, but it was like, if you go to an AA meeting and everybody shares their stories, everyone was sort of there for each other. And I go to therapy, so I've talked to my therapist about, the situation that I had. I know that at the end of the day, my therapist goes home, right? There's a limit. There's a certain time where she's at the office, and when she's at home, she is completely unavailable. You can leave her a message, but she has her own life. And with these people, I sort of said, whenever you need to talk, call me or message me or whatever, and I will be there. And I was. I did not sleep much. I would host a lot of these meetings and a lot of these episodes with like 3 hours of sleep. I kept my phone on loud, and if someone needed me, then I would talk to them for hours if they needed it. And, people calling you almost 24/7, panicking and, really freaking out. It's not positive. I knew a lot of, because I had beaten agoraphobia the year before, but was like slipping back into it. I knew a lot of tricks, so I just told them what I knew, and sometimes it helped. But I kept hearing a lot of the same stories. Like, we would go through what someone's experiencing, and I would try to tell them what I thought potentially they could do, and I don't know, it just felt like a lot of the time I was repeating myself and people were repeating their situations. It's a hard thing to break. Like, I like to think that I know a lot about anxiety, and I know what I'm supposed to do to be rid of it. It's knowing is half the battle. It is absolutely, your brain is convinced that, okay, so the ultimate goal is to face your fear and then, conquer it, and you're no longer afraid. But it's so similar to looking at a hot stove, and knowing that it's not hot, but everything in your brain is telling you that stove is on, and if I touch it, my hand is going to, burn. But you have to voluntarily put your hand there, and it's going to hurt until it stops hurting. And you can take your time with this. Now, obviously, facing fear and agoraphobia, some people can't take a step outside their house. Some people have, a mile border that they can go to. But you have to keep trying to push the boundary. So when I say that you need to put your hand on a hot stove until it stops hurting, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to face your fear until you stop freaking out. Not all at once. So you can take your hand off, but you have to. You'll start to realize that every step you take, you're not gonna die. Eventually, with agoraphobia, obviously, it starts in a store or somewhere. It starts somewhere, right? And it builds all around you. It builds these walls around your house, and you can't leave them. And eventually, sometimes it's even inside your house. It's in your body, and you never feel safe unless you're not alone, or there's a million different situations. Everybody's anxiety is different. Like, if the only place that you feel safe is in your bed, under your covers, with your safe person right next to you, well, there you go. There is your starting point, because a lot of the time, at least from my experience with talking to people, is that they thought something was wrong with them. Like, even if they knew it was anxiety, when they would get into those panic modes, they would think, oh my God, I'm going to die. Well, wait, hold on. I thought it was anxiety. But our brains just tell us, nope, like, I know it's anxiety, but all these feelings of, like, it's hard to breathe again, and, it feels like you're having a heart attack. The physical feelings overwhelm that rational thought process. So sometimes you have to start at the, at rock bottom, at the very safest point, and maybe that's where you can try to rationally talk to yourself. So when you are under the covers with your safe person and you actually feel safe, you need to write that down, or realize in that moment, hey, it can't be this crazy weird disease that I'm gonna die, like, if I walk or whatever, because I feel safe now. And the fact that I'm feeling normal and good because I feel safe, or under these right circumstances, that means that I don't have this weird disease. I know that it's anxiety. I know that all the symptoms that I feel, all the physical symptoms and thoughts, everything is being caused by, my fear. because I can prove that to myself because I know I have anxiety and that causes all my symptoms. I know that when I'm, under the covers or whatever your safe situation is, that I don't feel bad. I don't feel dizzy or that it's hard to breathe. I feel kind of good. You're not sick. It's I mean, I'm starting to think, for me, a lot of it is control. Like, for the at the beginning, I thought, cancer or something crazy because I didn't notice what would stress me out or trigger me or make me afraid. It felt as if I was randomly feeling these feelings. But I went to the hospital recently with my wife, and they were giving us a tour. We're having a baby, and they were touring, where we're gonna go and what it's gonna be like. And there were a couple other couples at the tour, and the whole time I was just terrified. I felt paralyzed. Just that I had to stand in a certain spot and listen to someone speak, and they talked really fast, and there was no gaps in the words they were saying. So asking a question or walking away, I just felt like I would disrupt. So I stood there pretty much shaking, and my mouth felt so dry. I just, all I could think to myself was, man, if I had a glass of water, I'd just be good. I'd be chilling. Eventually I got my glass of water. I ended up dropping it 2 times during the tour, which was really embarrassing. With water in it, and they're like, don't worry about it. But after I got my water, I was like, oh, my legs, I'm not used to standing, and people are looking at me, and I felt like if I were to walk away or say anything, that I would just be this massive burden, and all this pressure was building inside me, and I just wanted to explode. So yeah, that's just recently. But like I was saying, my therapist would go home, and I couldn't contact her, and I had way too much contact with way too much just tragedy and negative. And it's not to say that if you need someone to talk to, you're being negative, or that you would negatively be affecting them. Now, obviously people have triggers, and potentially you should say, hey, person with anxiety, can I talk to you about anxiety, another trigger, whatever. But like a normal person, you should be able to just vent out. However, in my situation, I have anxiety, and I had too many discussions on the topic, and it was all encompassing. It was everything I thought about and everything I did. If I wasn't having anxiety myself, I was talking to someone about theirs, and it was, negative feeds negative. And again, you are not a negative person if you experience anxiety, but people need to think about other things. And my thoughts as far as the group and the chat is, obviously there are people that have not discovered the end of the road. I feel safe in my blanket. They haven't found that thing that makes them feel safe, where they realize, hey, I definitely have anxiety and I don't want it anymore. What can I do to be rid of it? Now, that's a person to talk to. That's a person you actually can talk to and get through to. However, in the state beforehand, when you just panic every day and you think, you're convinced that something is wrong with you or whatever, yes, you can comfort them and you can make them feel better in the moment, but it will never end until you solve the problem, or at least begin to, or at least start, really taking notes. What triggers me? What makes me feel safe? And how do I get closer and closer to the goal of overcoming it? Anyways, it was just a never-ending cycle of anxiety, and I couldn't handle it anymore. And I also I got distracted. Shortly after stopping doing these meetings, I built a haunted house, and that was awesome. We had 400 trick-or-treaters that showed up. I had put like yard sale signs on a couple street corners, and it was awesome. Little backstory in that situation: my uncle would always build one at his house every year, and we had a falling out, and it was just awesome. I for a month I had something to do all day, every day, and it was I got to build this, you know, what my imagination out on this big front yard, and it was awesome. That's another thing is, a lot of the time, again, everybody's different, but when I'm bored, I have anxiety. I have too much to think about, like myself and my body, and whoa, that feels weird. It's good to try to find something to do that you really like to do, that can, be all encompassing with your thoughts, and you can just go crazy. And I'm actually running into that wall right now. I've watched all the shows and played all the games, and I've done all the stuff that's entertaining to me, and I'm starting to hit that wall again. I've been good, I haven't had any fear for a while, but I would say the last maybe 3 weeks I'm starting to fall back down. It keeps happening. I keep beating it, and then beating it, and then I keep falling back down. Anyways, to catch up to where I am now, we've been pregnant this whole time, but we built that haunted house, and Christmas was nice. I ended up recreating my childhood home with foam and cardboard. It's kind of hard to explain, but just like a miniature, what you would think a dollhouse looks like, but just with different materials of my childhood home, and I gave that to my mom for Christmas, which was good. I've been trying to write an anxiety movie. I've actually been trying to write it for a year. It's hard. Like, I feel like I'm the type of person that once I start, I never stop. Just go. But I've hit roadblocks, and I've rewritten it, and I've yet to finish it. I've gotten to 3 out of 4 chapters of it, and I can't sit down and finish it. I don't know what it is. But I keep getting ideas for it and writing them down. But it's gonna be awesome. If I ever finish it. Just, how to beat anxiety 101. But it's hard. It's, I don't want to lie, right? Like, this movie that I'm trying to make, I want to make it as accurate as possible, and potentially I want to take, some symptoms or whatever that other people experience that I haven't necessarily experienced myself, but just try to make an anxiety movie that just really explains and shows whoever watches it. I was going to say the world, but, the 30 people that watch it really understand what anxiety is, and I don't know, I just want to make it good. Anyway, so yeah, I've writer's block at the moment, and we're a month away from having our baby. He's due Hercules. He's due April 20th. I mean, I want him sooner than that, but that's a cool birthday. I mean, maybe April 1st would also be a cool birthday. But this would be, it's not my first kid. That's a story right there. And maybe I should tell it. I mean, I brought the subject up. I'll try to say it fast. A long time ago, I had a girlfriend. We were only together for like 9 months, but we got engaged, and, while I was working, we both worked at the same store, and people would tell me, oh, there's this guy showing up when I'm not around, and they would, be all lovey-dovey with each other, and I didn't want to believe it, but she kept having court appointments and dentist appointments at 8 o'clock at night, and that's not really a thing, but I tried to ignore all those warnings, and I was not allowed to see her phone. She was very secretive, but one day we discovered that we were pregnant, and on that day she left her phone on the counter or something, and I was just like, I gotta make sure. And there was another guy. Long story short, she left and tried to tell me that she was no longer pregnant, but then a year later there's a baby and he looks like me, and I tried to see him, and she eventually admitted and let me see him, but after a while, when I tried to see him more often, her family lives in Mexico, and she told me if I ever tried anything or whatever, that she would take him there. And I'm kind of a loser. I'm poor, and I really couldn't think of a solution or scenario that I would be able to overcome lawyers, and if not lawyers, then my child being raised in another country. So she blocked me and everything, and I've tried to reach out to her a few times and nothing. So that's that. However, as devastating as that is, me and my wife's baby boy Hercules is almost here, and then I could not be more excited. If you've seen any of these with a camera on me, or you've ever talked to me before with a camera, you would know that I would be smoking like a chain, and obviously that's not a huge thing, right? But it's a good thing, right? It's in the right direction. We got all this stuff. We got toys and clothes and swings and bassinets, and we have a lot of stuff, and we're ready to go. And I've been feeling him kick, and we've been reading to him. I'm very excited. I'm terrified, but I'm also very excited, and I think that love is the only way out. If you heard me talk about anxiety and the way out, I've said for a long time that we panic, and we find out that it's a mental disorder, right? Our thoughts are causing all these physical and emotional states that are chaotic and terrible. So I can only imagine that if you're anything like me, you've searched everywhere in your head. What is the answer? What can I do? How can I think rationally or properly that would get these nasty thoughts away from me? And I don't, just searching your head desperately, frantically. What do I do? What's the answer? Where can I even look? In that thought, I tried to imagine there's this maze in your brain. And it's a big maze, right? It's all of your thoughts, and you're just this little ball rushing through every little cranny. Just, what is the answer? How do I, how can I get out of this hell? And I personally have come to the conclusion that it's not in there. The answer is not in your head at all. The answer's in your heart. It's love. It's 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 there's obviously some thinking to it, right? You have to discover that anxiety is the thing you have. And I mentioned that earlier. How you do that is eventually you find a situation that you actually feel safe in. So, under the covers with your safe person, boom, I feel safe. So I must not be dying. It must be anxiety. And then you can start to think, all of these irrational thoughts. How do I get out of these moments? And obviously there's proving yourself wrong. That if I can feel safe, then I must not be dying. But the answer to voluntarily putting your hand on that hot stove, or voluntarily, going through a panic attack and going outside and facing that fear, the way to that is love. Like, what would my life be like if I could take my kids, to their soccer game, or go see my mom, or, go surprise my boyfriend, or whoever, what would my life be like if I could do everything that I wanted to do? And obviously not like, win the lottery and financially, but physically, what would my life be like if I could go and do what I wanted to do? And after a long time of living in isolation and shame and feeling like a burden and being jealous of people for just being able to do normal things, after a long time of that, there's a lot of built up love in your heart. At least I like to think so. And just things that you wish you can do, and I think you should use that. I think, if you're asking yourself, if it's worth it, or how could I ever possibly, force myself to feel these terrible feelings that I've been running from for so long, you have to be fueled with love. And I think you need to fight with a sword of truth, right? The lies are attacking you. The lies are telling you, you're gonna die, or something horrible is gonna happen. And obviously it's within your own mind, but the answer to a lie is the truth. And sometimes you have to discover the truth, but sometimes you know the truth, and you can use truth to defeat these irrational thoughts. And obviously when there's physical symptoms, it can become overbearing and drowned out some of the truth. But the truth is if you know you have anxiety and you feel safe in certain circumstances, then if you did decide to walk out your front door, you're not going to die. And if you've ever tried to face your fear, or even experienced fear in general, and thought, this is it, well, guess what? You're still here, which means you weren't going to die. And, there's a lot of tricks you can do to convince yourself that you're okay. The fact that you can calm down kind of means that you're okay. Trust me, I know it's hard. But, you can't feel courage, or you can't be brave unless you're scared. Like, being brave is not, being one of those parkour guys that just jump off roofs, no fucks given. A lot of those guys are kind of ignorant and, don't realize how vulnerable and precious life is, and good for them, right? They're probably super happy. But people like us are super aware of every little thing that could go wrong. And, when your mind is consumed with negative and chaos, it's hard to get out of that. But, the answer to the fact that we are living in a ball in space surrounded by darkness, with people getting murdered, and, the fact that every little accident in the world out there could happen to you, and could happen to you right in your house. It's a scary world out there. It's we're not wrong in that thought process, but you know, the only way out of this is hope and love. And with our, I always say that, like, if I was religious, I just would not have anxiety, right? God's got my back. But we live in a world right now where there's not a lot of that going on. There's not a lot of faith in anything. And it's not to say that I'm telling you should be religious, but I am telling you that there is good in the world. There is magic in the world, and I really do believe that. I think that a lot of people see humans as poison to the earth, that we're corrupting it and we're ripping it apart and we're just selfish and evil. I like to think of it as, we're also a part of nature. And if you've ever seen, like, videos online or whatever of, like, a bear eating an elk alive, I don't think that bear is evil. I think he's just eating, and he's just trying to survive. And as the elk is screaming alive, because bears eat their prey while they're still alive, that's a horrible sight to see. But I can still see that bear, that there's nothing evil going on with that. There's no evil thought in that bear's mind. He's just trying to survive. And of course there are, there's a few billionaires out there that realize the decisions they're making are negatively affecting the world around them. And there are people that will go along with horrible acts. There's people that will commit crimes to better themselves and enrich themselves. There is a lot of selfish people in the world, but your average Joe is not one of those guys. And obviously your average Joe probably doesn't have much power. However, if you are, let's say you're sitting in the forest, right? And it's, because when you think of the city and people and chaos and we're polluting the earth, bad, right? But you're sitting in the forest and you're hearing birds chirping and the sun is beaming through the trees, and you're sitting in the grass and it's just nice and peaceful. And you think that this is what's good in the world. This is how it should be. And that we are destroying this feeling, right? We're bad for the environment, and this is good. And I think that as well. I do think that we're destroying the world, the earth, and polluting and whatever. Yeah. But I also think that sitting in that forest is pretty nice and peaceful, and that there's magic in there. And I think that, as much as we enrich ourselves, just the human population, and, burn oil and advance till we're, robots are taking over and doing everything. And one day there's going to be a comet or a meteor or whatever. I'm not a smart person, but there's going to be that thing that comes. And it might not be in our lifetime, and it might not be in many lifetimes. However, we are on a ball, surrounded by infinite darkness. There's some stars, right? But there's a hell of a lot more darkness. And, as far as we can see in this barren wasteland of the universe, our planet is the only thing we know that has life on it. And, again, back in that forest, if you've ever seen a kind act, or, held a baby, or pet your cat or your dog. There's love in the world, and there's things in this world that are beautiful and perfect and innocent, and there's nothing that can deny the purity of some of what nature really has to offer. The world is beautiful. It's chaotic and horrible and all that, but it's also beautiful. And when that meteor comes, I do believe that we need to be advanced as we possibly could be to knock that sucker out, because life is precious. Life is fucking awesome. Like, again, in this endless sea of darkness, we are the universe's conscious. What's within us is, particles of starlight. We are a part of the universe, and we can think, and we are observing ourselves, right? Like, it's weird. Even if it's a God scenario, or it's a, Big Bang scenario, I don't know what the answer is. But whatever the answer is we are a part of this world, and we see it. The universe sees itself through us, and we have to protect it. I don't know what the answers are, but I know that as much hate and chaos and anxiety and fear and doubt, love and hope, that's the way out. I really believe that. And, if you ever got that goosebumpy, golden butterfly feeling, there's magic. It's chemicals, whatever. It's magic. That's what I believe. And, if you can tune into that love, the love you have for, the people around you, the things you wish you could do, and the fact that, you haven't died yet. You're still here. And maybe you're here for a reason. Maybe you're here to experience some tragedy in the world so you can better help and better understand somebody else. And, how could that not be the greatest gift? Suffering sucks. It's horrible. But making someone else who's also suffered feel better, knowing what they have felt before, and getting them out of that hole that you know all too well, that's a life worth living. That's a purpose. That's more than you. Because I think that, when we face those fears, right, when we go outside, or we face the almighty death, or whatever you want to call it, your biggest fear, I think that when you do that with love, and courage, and wielding that sword of truth, you find that you are more to the darkness than, you're more than the darkness. You discover that the darkness wasn't as big as you thought it was, and you find just that you can do it. And I do think that you can. Anyways, so yeah, that's what's been going on with me. Waiting for the baby, trying to make this movie. The movie thing might not happen for a little bit, but when it does, it's gonna be big. Anyways, so I don't not exist. If you're from my group, you can still talk to me. I'm not gonna be there 24/7 anymore. Maybe I'll say, because there's a lot of the time someone would say something, hey, I need you right now, and I'd be like, what's going on? How can I help you? Like, immediately. And, I'm a pretty instant person. However, if you need to talk, I'm here for you. I probably, if we've talked before, I probably can't say too many things that I haven't already said. However, I know that some people just need someone to talk to. if I can, I'll be there. But I can't be a 24/7 dude. Anyways, I love you guys, and maybe I'll do another one. I'm excited for Eric, and yeah. And I love my wife. She's amazing. She's perfect. I'm completely just in awe. I don't know. I mean, my anxiety affects it a lot, right? I just feel like a loser a lot of the time, and I want to be better, for her and obviously for her,